So thank you for the opportunity to be here. We've actually spent almost a decade building infrastructure for what now is known as blockchain. In 2000, we actually started a managed service provider. The individual prior just mentioned it, how it actually all creates this ecosystem. Well, when we started it, it didn't actually have the ecosystem behind it. So we helped to create it in 2000. Working with Intel in 2001, it's now a $256 billion industry. But in all reality, it's just kind of the start of a pendulum. We all look at blockchain today and say, what is it? Well, in all reality, it's just a database that's kind of shifted from being on-premise to the cloud, Web 2.0, and then all the way into a decentralized location. We've kind of seen it all reinvent itself. We've actually started focusing on managing the distributed locations or deploying technologies in these distributed locations all the way back to 2000. In 2009, we actually had team members that were looking into blockchain and Bitcoin and actually put in a sizable amount, about $50,000 in 2009, and held that over the years. So you can kind of do the math and see what kind of value and experience or influence we've had within this ecosystem. Today, we basically are announcing a platform, if you will, that is built for blockchain, and specifically the nodes that will actually be on blockchain. We're a team that is worldwide. We actually have about 9 offices and about 91 people around the world, primarily focused in New Zealand, Greece, Utah, a couple offices in Canada, and then also in India. The team itself has a lot of experience. We've actually attracted within the ClearFoundation 103,000 different community members that actually help to support some of this technology. The technology is 100% open source. So we actually help to develop technology that sits on nodes at the customer's premise, and then community members help to support it. So talk about decentralization. It's more like a decentralization support staff that really scales and grows with it. It's very difficult to be able to do that, but in all reality, we've been able to prove it over the years with some of the mediums that I'll specifically talk about. Some of the companies that we've helped to create are imaged here, whether it's managed service provider companies, technology companies, infrastructure companies, storage companies. This is basically the leadership is really focused on building very innovative and important technology infrastructure plays that the current infrastructure world is based on. About 230 plus years of combined influence from just this leadership team. Very mature, very disruptive. When you look at some of the real competitive advantages or barriers to entries, our technology runs on any x86-based server in the world, but the #1 server in the world has actually selected us to pre-install this software on all of their servers, which is about 70 to 200,000 per quarter. Very, very disruptive. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise has selected ClearOS and ClearVM to pre-install, whether with hard drives or without hard drives, on all their servers. AMD is actually one of the key components, whether you look at the current mining world or infrastructure world, or they're a key component to putting together the hardware, software, and services that will actually disrupt what we call distributed IT at the customer's premise. So while the whole world's been focusing on going to the cloud, we've been focusing on influencing and building real automation and scale at the customer's location based upon true decentralization. So the image here is actually launching the microserver on June 5th at Discover. And you'll see another huge announcement of elements of what we call ClearNode at that same event, which is about 11,000 people that participate. Imaged here is the HPE team, the AMD team, and the Clear Center team. The problem and solution that we focus on. How many individuals today, by raise of hands, actually have a node that runs this whole ecosystem that we're talking about at your home? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Has it been complicated to set that puppy up? And does that thing actually do mining for you? Does it really add value in the whole ecosystem around what we're talking about when we talk about blockchain and cryptocurrencies or other apps, around having real-time viability of actually having real-time payment? Can you go and buy a Big Mac on a Visa that's tied to the crypto backend? We help to enable that from a distributed, true enterprise approach at the nodes, like that gentleman that was up here before. How's he actually going to deliver that type of infrastructure on the current infrastructure we have that's primarily based upon proof of work building? It's specifically workload on asynchronous systems, not x86, GPU, CPU, storage-based systems. That's what we're focused on. So in all reality, if you're not running a node, right now Bitcoin's got, what, 10,000 around the world? We've already deployed over 430,000 of these systems worldwide in over 150 countries. Think about what happens when some of the providers, oh boy, think about what happens when some of the providers actually start developing these apps and putting it onto this infrastructure. Think about the mass adoption that they can actually have. Today, current deployments are basically, I'm going to see if I can use this little pointer thing. Current deployments are down here at this location where they're sitting on desktops or laptops that have storage connected to them or asynchronous-based systems. In all reality, they should really be focused in the middle here, where it's actually combining the server network and gateway layer, which most of us, when we leave here, we'll go to a home or a hotel or some other place that actually has a physical internet connection with a router or firewall behind it. We combine all that into one basic system. So server, network, gateway, all these different logos, we disrupt all of them by replacing every single one of these manufacturers, combining it into one software stack that has a marketplace attached to it, that has a beautiful graphical user interface that actually scales for the customer. Purely open source, never gets crippled, customer or community service based, so it's very scalable from a business model standpoint. So imagine, majority of the servers in the world actually use this black screen. We believe it should be simple, just like, kind of like what you deal with your phone, right? Remember the day when it was actually very complicated? You had a lot of different systems or devices, and now you actually can touch a marketplace. We believe that IT at the node at your home or at your business should actually be just as simple as what we experience here. You want it to be a firewall? Grab the app. You want it to be intrusion detection? Grab the app. You want it to be a bank? Grab the app. You want it to be a wallet, a miner? Most of the applications that we're talking about here at this conference, grab the apps. This becomes distribution for the infrastructure for a blockchain in the future. We already have 158 applications in production today. This is not hypothetical. This stuff ships today. We're doing about 150 deployments every single day with 29 users on average behind each one of them. Very, very, very disruptive. When we talk about actually how does it all come together, the x86-based servers, so not just HPE, but any x86-based server can have the virtualization stack stuck on top of it, whole conversation, then the operating system, and then any kind of apps out of the marketplace that you'd like. When you think about how your cell phone works and the little SIM cards that plug into it, we have a similar strategy with the USB drive. Literally, no hard drives. You rug everything right from the operating system itself. Then you can actually go and deploy next-generation blockchain apps, similar to what we've actually talked about here at this environment, or this event. When you look at ClearOS, again, 17 years of development, 158 applications, over 430,000 deployments around the world. I'm going to keep cranking through this. So literally, all around the world, virtualization, same type of thing, patented technology, not just patent application, patented technology, and then we open source it. We give it to the open source world so no one else can come behind it that are closed source based technology companies to stop it. It's going to be the future. If we talk about blockchain really being the future, how are you going to deliver that? How are you going to scale it? How are you going to securitize it? ClearNode is actually the combination of hardware, software, and services to be able to securitize it for a predictable monthly fee, as well as specifically sold with a token and possibly even installed. First, it will be Canada, literally on-site installation. By the way, you can go buy this infrastructure from Walmart today. It's in over 150 plus countries through HPE from a distribution standpoint. So when you take all these different hardware, software, and services and you combine the security from HPE, the operating system, the chip, the disk, the apps, all of the different, you can actually securitize from the silicon all the way to the applications. If you know what's happened in the IT industry with Intel in the last 15 years, massive, massive security breaches. No one, you all have backdoor issues. These solve it with HPE and this operating system that sits on top of it. If you really understood the magnitude of that, that's probably one of the most disruptive things we'll talk about. I'm going to skip this one because I don't have time. This particular app, disruptive, massive. The biggest security provider in the world is actually OEMing this, and it effectively takes the 8 billion technology or websites and URLs and ports, blocks all of them, and uses only machine learning to allow only where a user wants to go based upon what's good and safe. I'm going to skip this. So storage, applications, nodes, the actual apps that are sitting on it. When you talk about the business model, we use standards with open source and closed source based technology. Customers that organically adopt it. Today, adoption rates, again, over 430,000. Every 9 minutes is a new deployment with a 12% conversion ratio. When you look at the token and proceeds distribution, Clear will be a responsible token. Half of the proceeds will actually be separated into we will not use them. They will help to onboard and offboard fiat-based currencies and assets. When we look at the supply, the usability, there'll actually be a 5-year distribution. The team, everything that you've already seen, will only take 20% of that over a 3-year vesting period. And then mining, the future of mining, will actually be able to be adopted over the next 5 years with this technology. Oh. Yeah, exactly. So, come on.
Probably got like 30 seconds.
Thank you for the opportunity to allow us to be here. So, very disruptive market, huge team that has an ability to literally disrupt what we're currently doing. Long history with it. And when you talk about revenues, you talk about disruption, you talk about profit margins, the business in and of itself is very valuable, but doing something that is socially responsible. Thank you, and thank you again.